Hey, Bill, I went on this really cool listing appointment today. It was a quadplex, so it was 4 units, a really big old building in Northern Liberties. Really cool. I mean, it was like, had a lot of the old original details that we love so much. Big brownstone exterior, just gorgeous building. It wasn't like completely modern, like it wasn't completely, new, everything, but it was the kind of building that I like, with all the old stuff and the original details. But all the mechanicals and everything like that was just, up to date and great. It was occupied though. So all 4 units were occupied, and the market rent was below market value right now. So I'm having a little trouble. I think this is going to sell, no problem at all. Just because of the location and because it's really hard to find multifamily properties. But the thing about it is that while it's occupied, which is good for some buyers, they can kind of walk in and it's pretty much turnkey. They're going to start making some money. The price where he wants to list it is a little high considering the rents are under market. Have you ever dealt with anything like this before?
Yeah. I had a couple of them last year. And, I think that those are some of the hardest properties to price. And because there's so many different types of investor out there too.
Yeah.
And the way they look at these investments is all different. Mm-hmm. And it's like a game of trying to be able to get them to see that, you're investing in a building and there's future value there as well, because we typical, I'm just going to say it, South Philly. Okay. So when you get into South Philly, okay, let me tell you what happens when you're dealing with multi-units in South Philly. So
first of all, they're not zoned properly, usually.
Well, there's so many. There's so many variables. It's not zoned properly. They're never really have all the utilities separated, and it gets complicated. There's so many of those too. But let's just talk about an actual legally zoned duplex, triplex, whatever. So you have the seller on one hand who's thinking this building is worth this, and of course they're always looking at a max number. Mm-hmm. But that seller also has had the building now for 15 years, 20 years, and he doesn't want to have a high rent, or he doesn't want to raise the rent on these people because his tenants have been there for, 5-10 years. So he's making a lot of money because he bought it 15, 20 years ago. And they're great tenants.
That's it.
So all that makes sense. I understand that logic absolutely. But the complicated conversation to have with the seller at that point is like, okay, so I understand what you're doing, but now why would a buyer investor pay top dollar for a building with tenants that have been there a long time and that are paying under? Mm-hmm. Because you're giving them work.
Right.
When you sell something at top dollar, whether it's an investment or a home, everything's got to be perfect.
Yep.
So if you're buying like a house and you're paying top dollar, everything's got to be done. It's got to be move in. Otherwise, you are not going to get top dollar. So for an investment, it's got to be rented and you got to be getting the max rent for the area or close to it. If you're not, you got to reduce your price because you're giving the buyer investor work. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I totally agree. It's one of those really hard conversations because the seller, as you said, bought, 15, 20 years ago for a lot less, has been sitting on it, thinks he's got this gold mine because, he's got these great tenants and they pay rent on time and they're super easy, low maintenance, but they're paying under market value. And he's looking at all the prices now in the neighborhood and thinking like, I can charge, top dollar to sell this. And you really can't with those tenants in place. Now, from a buyer's perspective, one good thing with having a fully occupied rental property when you're buying it is that you can use that rental income towards your purchase. So a lot of times people can actually afford a little more because the lender can factor in that rental income as part of their purchase. So that's
like
helpful.
Income to debt ratio.
Yep, exactly, debt to income ratio. So that's a helpful thing. But if it's really priced below market, they're kind of stuck. It's really a tough one.
It is tough, and and not this isn't just a seller issue, because then I have on the buyer side too. It's like I had taken a call. I had one of these listed last year, and I had taken a call from a buyer agent, and they went and looked at the unit, and it was a duplex, and they liked it, but they didn't like the rents. And I said, well, this exact scenario happened to me. So I'm like, yeah, but he had the building a long time. He likes his tenants. The upstairs guy's been there 9 years, and downstairs just got fully renovated. Tenant's only been there a year, so that's getting max value. But we can get the upstairs to that number. But the buyer didn't want to deal with that. So I asked the agent, I said, so, okay, well, how much does this buyer want to be making per month off of this house right off the bat? And she was like, he wants to make $500 a month. Now, this house was only like $300,000. They wanted to make like $500 a month in profit right off the bat, and then, which is a lot right off the bat in that price range. And so the seller's point of view is, no. When I bought them, I was just breaking even because I was investing in future gains. So why would I sell them?
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're going to, it doesn't make sense. So like both sides have to, have to come to like, reality when you're dealing with that. And it could be hard. And then there's potential owner occupied. There's so many ways to look at a multi-unit, especially if it's a quadplex. Then you could talk about an owner occupied unit. And then like, maybe their down payment every month would be the same if they bought a $400,000 building by themselves, or now you could buy an $800,000 quadplex, have the same payment, you have a smaller space, but you have an investment property.
There's a lot of different variables. I mean, I've had, and also just in case listeners don't know, also with typically when you're buying a home, an investment property that is tenant occupied, you have to honor, as the buyer, you have to honor the lease that's been made with the previous owner. So, if there's a year lease, then you kind of have to honor that. There are ways you can maybe try to negotiate with the tenants a bit and give them some money so they can move out early or something like that. I've seen that happen. But, the way most leases are structured is that, you sign a year lease and then it goes month to month after that. So even still, there's a period of time that you have to give the tenants notice to move out. I've been in situations where I've had buyers purchase, multi-unit property contingent on it being delivered vacant. That the seller has to figure out a way to get the tenants out. And that is a whole other kind of tricky scenario. But and that's really for that reason, so that they can up the rents and make what they're trying to make on the property when they buy it.
Like we always talk about with every single listing or buyer consultation, it's about setting expectations in the beginning and trying to tell your buyer and your seller, try to explain to them what the other side's going to be thinking. So every time we go look at something, if you have a buyer that's looking for investment property, just like you said, you're going to be looking for, obviously, is it occupied? We see a bunch that are unoccupied and that have projected rents. So there's those. Then there's fully occupied buildings. In those cases, you want to see the leases and how much, obviously you're trying to total up how much the building's making each month.
Yeah, if they have a P&L, that would be really helpful to review.
And then location's huge too. So like if you're buying something in Rittenhouse and you're in a great location, you're not going to probably be cash flowing much at all in the beginning, because you're buying it for future gains. Right. Rather than if you're buying in a not so great area, you better be cash flowing. Right?
Yeah.
And we actually did talk about this a little bit before, and it's like, what type of investor are you? Like, are you looking for are you cash? You looking for cash flow, or are you looking for future equity growth in the building? So there's that as well. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's definitely, these are conversations you got to have with your clients before they hit the market. So what are you thinking your guy's going to do?
I don't know. Honestly, I just saw it today. I brought it up because I think you would really enjoy seeing this property. I think it would be cool. I'll try to get you in maybe next week before I list it. But I'm going to have to do some research here and really kind of figure out a number for him. I think his number is probably a little high, just based on the rents and who's in there. But I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging. But I would love to get your opinion on it. Maybe I can take you by there next week.
I would love to see it. You have any updates on your private exclusive?
No, I actually...
Have you had any tours?
As we're talking, got a text from someone who showed it today, and it sounds like they want to kind of crunch numbers and get back to me. I've only had a few showings. It's only been like a week and a half on the market, and it's still private exclusive, so it's not on the open market yet. And we've had, I think, 3 showings so far, but the one from today, they seem to... everybody thinks the building is super cool. Everybody, all the feedback is like, oh, it's so neat. But man, it's a project. We just have to see if the numbers make sense. So that's where we are with it. It even has like a little speakeasy in the basement. It's so cool. It's going to be great for somebody. I can't wait to see what someone does with it. I hope they invite me in after they finish. But, it's a project, though. It's for sure. It's a project.
How would you do that property?
I don't know. My challenge with this particular one is that the stairs are in the middle, and it's kind of like an expanded Trinity. So I don't know if there's a way to really change the stair orientation to make straight stairs. I mean, I'm sure there is, and to do that would get really expensive. It's kind of neat that you walk in, like the way you would typically walk in would be like from the side street. So, and I actually like that. When you walk in, it feels wide instead of like a long bowling alley, that you're looking down. So it kind of has a width to it. But the stairs are right in front of you, and they are Trinity stairs. So it's a big place, but it has Trinity type stairs, which I think is, would probably, if I were living in the house, that would be something I would want to change, just because I'm really clumsy and those stairs are difficult for me.
Since you were away last week, I've had no one's taken up my invitation to tour them of that building and
to see it.
Yeah, no one took me up on that. I think it's because they didn't want to buy me a beer, probably, because that was part of the stipulation. I said, you have to buy me a beer.
That's right.
As payment, and we'll go on a ghost tour. But I didn't have to do it, so we'll see if this week I'll throw it out there again. I shouldn't.
Yeah,
do that.
Throw it out there again, and maybe it doesn't even have to be beer. Maybe it could just be coffee. It'll be a little cheaper.
You know me. I do coffee. I would love to do coffee. Coffee's better for me.
I know you're a coffee person. Yeah.
All right, but yeah, let's set up a time to go buy that property. I'd love to check it out. Maybe take some pictures, and if the owner would let us, and like throw it out there just to let people know what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, checking out multi-units is there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it for buyer and for seller. You have to ask yourself. What you really have to ask yourself is the toughest question is, if you were the investor, would you pay this number for this property with this rental income? If the answer is no, why would someone else?
Right. Exactly.
Well, all right. This has been fun, Kristin, but we got to get out of here. We got to get back to work, and I will see you at happy hour.
All right. See you at happy hour.